I'm Mike Glenn. I'm Senior Pastor at Brentwood Baptist Church, and we have this little conversation on YouTube to help you in your everyday walk with Christ. We're dealing with those kind of things that you deal with every day in your family, in your daily life, and that kind of stuff. So if you like what we're doing, hit like, and we'd love for you to hit subscribe. Now, one of the questions that keeps coming up is, Mike, how do I deal with temptation? What do I do when I'm wrestling with temptation? Well, here's the first thing, and this is the first of two parts because this is a pretty complicated one. One, you don't wrestle with temptation. You don't wrestle with temptation, okay? That's not what you do. That's not what you think about. If you're engaged in a thought battle with temptation, you've already lost. Here's what happens. James tells us that God does not tempt anybody. God is not tempted by anything, nor does he tempt us. What happens is your thought becomes desire, and your desire becomes action. The very thing that you're telling yourself not to do something, quote, wrestling with temptation, means you're thinking about it. And when you're thinking about it, sooner or later, it becomes what you desire, even if it's what you say you don't want. Now, how many of us have ended up in situations we didn't want to be in, doing things we didn't want to do, telling ourselves the whole time, I don't want to do this, but you're there just the same. Why? Because whatever you're thinking about sooner or later becomes what you do. So what happens when you are faced with a temptation? You switch your attention to something else. The Bible tells us that we are to think on whatever is beautiful, whatever is good, whatever is righteous. These are the things that we think about. And so when you have that temptation that jumps up in front of you and says, hey, pay attention to me, don't fight it, don't wrestle it, you take your attention somewhere else. You turn on the television, you pick up a book and start to read, you start a conversation with a friend, you get up and go work out. You take your attention somewhere else. Do not sit down and say, I'm not going to think about this, I'm not going to think about this. Let me tell you, it goes like this. Let's say I get up in the morning and I say, today I'm not going to eat an Oreo cookie. Whatever I do, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be powerful, I'm not going to eat an Oreo cookie. Now, what have I done? I have placed the Oreo cookie dead center in my brain. It becomes the thing that drives me the rest of the day. Now, the rest of the day, I'll be going, I'm not going to need an Oreo cookie. And then sooner or later, it will change to, I'm not going to go to the grocery store and buy an Oreo cookie. I'm not going to go to the cookie aisle in the grocery store. See what happens? End of the day, the only thing I can think about is how fast I can get an Oreo cookie. Why? Because it's what you've been thinking about all day long. Now, I know you're thinking, I can't control my thoughts. My thoughts just happen. Yes, you can. Now, it takes a little work, takes a little practice, but you can. Now, there are some thoughts that come, and they come unbidden. They just come. Martin Luther, the great theologian, said, you cannot keep birds from flying over your head, but you can keep them from building nests in your hair. That's what we're talking about. Don't let the thought that would lead you to go somewhere you don't want to go, do something you don't want to do, take over your life. Think about something else. Read the Scripture. And read the Scripture, memorize Scripture. Why? Because you want the Scripture in your brain. Remember, when Jesus was tempted, the way he fought temptation was he quoted Scripture back to the temptation. Hang around friends who will encourage you to your best so that there's someone you can call going, hey, I'm having a hard time right now, and you can get the subject changed. Have a book that requires a lot of thought. Have a project that requires some kind of action that makes you have to get up and go do something. Read something that requires your full attention so you can get your mind off of what you're thinking about that's going to lead you down the wrong road, okay? So the thing about wrestling with temptation is don't. Wrestle with Jesus. Learn like Jacob to hold on for dear life. Know everything you can about Jesus. Know everything about his word. That's where you spend your time. That's where you spend your thoughts. You don't wrestle with temptations. You just let them slide on by. So this week when you're tempted, remember you have a choice. You have a choice in how you respond, and that choice starts by changing what you think about. You do that by spending time in prayer, by spending time in Scripture, and by spending time in deep conversation with Christian brothers and sisters who are on the same journey. Don't wrestle with temptation. Wrestle with Jesus and pray that you lose. I'm Mike Glenn. This is Brentwood Baptist Church, and we'd love to have you part of our YouTube family. So hit subscribe or like, and we'll see you next time.